watercolour mixing is really, really important. To understand every tube of paint that you've been out to buy and how it will play with others that you already use in your palette is very, very valuable exercises. So today I'm going to share with you something that I do in my classes, and that's taking a couple of shades of paint, pigment of paint, and seeing what sort of colours that you can get out of them. And what you will find, instead of having to go and own 80 odd tubes of paint, that by understanding perhaps 10 tubes of paint, you'll see how many different shades that you can create. If you use just 5 or 6 choices of paint, pigment in your paintings, but you do your watercolour mixing from them, you will find that your paintings work. Everything will be in harmony. And that is far better than just dipping into another tube of paint to see what it's going to do. So we're going to have a go at doing that today. When new people ask about what would be a good basic kit to have for their watercolours, and we get to the part about pigment, I actually recommend a limited palette of these 6 colours. So 2 yellows, 2 reds, 2 blues, and I include in it also burnt sienna. And with those 6 tubes of paint and burnt sienna, it's possible to mix lots and lots of different shades. It means that you could go out and buy artist grade pigment, which is far better value in the long run because you get pure colour, beautiful colour mixing, and you're happy with your results, opposed to buying a larger tube of paint that's a student brand and has got lots of fillers in it. So it's better, if you have a limited budget, to start off with fewer colours but of a better quality and learn what they can do for you, which is what you do with this. In my classes, where people have been coming for a long time, of course they don't want to always just use the same old colours. Even though in a painting we might only use 5, we might want them to be a different 5. But it's a case of understanding how they still mix and play with the other colours that you have already. So this little chart here, and I'll put an image up and a list of these colours in the, I'll put an image in the video and a list of the colours in the description, shows outside of those 7 tubes of paint, some others that have been added as time has gone on, so people have got variety. But my idea is that when you add a new colour, you find out how is it going to play with what you've already got. And that's what I'm going to show you here, a simple chart that you can do that'll make you understand how this colour mixing works with the tubes that you've bought, but also how it will show you all of the different shades that you can get. So for instance, here I have got French ultramarine blue mixed with permanent rose. Now I haven't even done mine really carefully here. If you did this even more carefully, you would have more variety of shades. It's a case of mixing one into the other and it changes the shade very, very slightly. And what you will find is you could go to a paint manufacturer and each one of these shades here has probably been done and has been given a new name. So by mixing them yourself, you've saved perhaps buying at least 10 tubes of paint there, but also you understand very quickly by limiting your painting to just the permanent rose and the French ultramarine blue, how many varieties of these purples you're going to have in your work, but at least you know they will all work in harmony with what you're doing. On this other chart here, I have a slightly better process with my greens here. For instance, this one here is using a warm yellow, Windsor yellow, down here with a Windsor blue. And by painting all of these on here, I can see all of these changes and how I can get greens just from those 2 colours. If you, as I say, if you did this even more carefully, and I've had people that have done this, this turns into a lot of transitions between the blue and the yellow. But let me just show you how I go about doing that. So I'm going to choose 2 colours from this chart here that I haven't already experimented with on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this quinacridone gold and indigo. Quinacridone gold and indigo, which is obviously going to give me a green. I haven't already tried it on here, so this is a good one to have a little play at. The first thing that I do is I take a permanent black marker and I write the name on here. And you could also write on here which brand of paint it is, because you might want to refer back to this. You might be running out of paint and you'd like to go and get the same tube again. And as we know, manufacturers all make a shade of indigo. They will all be slightly different in their makeup, and you may wish to get the same one. So I put one colour up one end, I turn it around, and on this side here I will write the other colour that I'm going to test this with. Also happens to be a Winsor & Newton colour. Now there's my permanent marker. By pushing a permanent marker down here, it actually adds another value to making a colour chart, and I'll show you. So taking the Queen Gold, get a fairly strong mixture of this, because the first shade that I want to put down for the Queen Gold, I want it to be pure pigment, not a lot of water. I'm going to put that first mark over the top of the word Queen Gold. I take the indigo, and again, I would like this fairly pure. And I put that over the word indigo here. Now, we all know that when we put the colour down wet, it's going to look darker than when it dries. So sometimes it's a little hard to judge whilst it's wet. But when those two colours dry, I can have a look and I can see, can I see my writing through that strong pigment that I've put there? And if I can, I know that I'm using a fairly transparent colour. If I can't see it at all, I know that it's going to be opaque. If I can see a hint of it, I know that it's going to be semi-transparent or semi-opaque. So that's a good little test. So that's the first part of what we have to do. This next step for doing the colour mixing, basically what you've got to do is you've got to put a little bit of one colour into the other. I actually haven't worked out whether it works better putting the dark into the light or the light into the dark. I don't think it really matters. So today I think I'm going to put the dark into the light. So I already have my little pools of paint here, and this might take a little bit of practice. So if you're doing yourself a beautiful colour chart, you might like to have a little practice at how this works on a scrap of paper first, so that you can then fill in your colour chart with some confidence. But basically what I'm going to do here is take the minutest bit of the blue and put it into this big pool of the gold. And then I'm going to put one stroke down here. So I've already altered the colour of pure gold to this slightly greened down gold. Then I will just take a wee bit more and pop that in and put myself another stroke. Already I'm turning green here. So this can be done more carefully. This is a saying, you get far more transitions. Every dip of the indigo into the gold, of course, is introducing more blue into it. I'm taking off any wet paint so that I'm not watering down my effect. It's very, very slight, but each stroke here is getting bluer. I'm going to run out of indigo paint, so I just might have to mix up a wee bit more there. Just do a little bit more. Take a bit of that, in it goes. And sometimes it's hard to see exactly what you've got here until these little swatches of paint dry. But basically, by the time you get to the end here, if you've done it carefully enough, you should be able to get to the blue. And I haven't done it particularly well. I should have fitted in far more transitions here than what's here, but you get the idea. So then I'll just choose two other colours that I haven't done before. And let me have a look here. How about I try something like this phthalo green here, which is perhaps a Winsor and Newton green, but in a blue shade. I think that's what they call it. I'll have to check that one out. But a phthalo-y green colour. And I'm going to mix it with this bright ochre pink here. So let me give myself a little bit here so I don't put my hand in it. So I'm going to put phthalo green here. Now my little chart here tells me it's actually Daniel Smith phthalo green. So I'll write Daniel Smith up there. And then down here, I'm going to put the opera pink, which is Daniel Smith, Opera Rose from Winsor and Newton, but I think that's what I've got in my palette. So now I've got these two. So I'll just clean off those greens off of there, so that I can get some nice fresh colour. And let's try. So we want a nice pool of the pink, and my pink's not very fresh. I just give that a little squirt. Take some of the pink. Probably should have prepared a little bit of fresh colour here. This is a bit hard to get that out. But anyway, let's see how we go. So there's our pink. And I'll put that down over the word. Immediately I can see through that. As this indigo is drying here, I can still read my writing through there. So I know that that's not an opaque colour, that it's got some transparency to it. So that's a good little test. And I'm going to take this phthalo green colour. Got a little bit more fresh paint on that one. I noticed with phthalo blue and phthalo green, they're incredibly strong, and a little bit goes a long way. So let's leave it at that much for a minute. So here goes the green. Immediately, even though that's a fairly dark colour, I can see everything through there. So phthalo green and opera pink. Now let's just see what sort of colours we're going to get out of that. Obviously, I'm looking that these are going to grey down into a bit of a neutral, because we've got a red and we've got a green. They're opposite on the colour wheel, and they are going to give us something greyed down. Now this time I'm going to work putting the light into the dark and see if it makes any difference. So just one scoop of the pink into this big pool of the green, and pop it up here. It's immediately looking a little bit blue. So I'll just get some more fresh pink, put it into here. Some more fresh pink, put it into here. More. As I say, that's turned purple very quickly, purpley green. It's pretty colours. If you do this a lot slower, you get even better results. You do it as fast as I'm doing it here, results could be a wee bit better. More pink into the green. Very surprised at this actually. I thought this would look a lot more neutral than this. Well, I have never done those two shades together, so what a valuable exercise for me. I thought it would be a lot more neutrally looking than that, but in actual fact it's shades of purple, so that is a very, very good test to see that something in that pink with that green there isn't necessarily going to be colour opposites. And I guess it's because the phthalo green is a bit on the cool side, and so is that opera pink. Let's try one other. I'm going to do one alongside this one here to see if I can get that neutral that I was talking about. So I'm actually going to use the phthalo green again. This time I'm going to put it with the permanent alizarin crimson, which is a Winsor & Newton. So I get my two shades. So here is permanent alizarin crimson over the top of that, and the green will be the Daniel Smith phthalo green over the top of that. So there's my two colours. So now I've just got to work out which way I'm going to go. Look how lovely that alizarin crimson looks in the palette. It's swum out and made all of these patterns in the water. So if it does that there, it's likely that would do that well on a painting. So that's another little test as well. So I'm going to take some of the red and put it into this pool of green. And put my stroke up here, which has hardly changed it at all. So I get some more of the red and put it in. I can see it gradually changing. I'm rinsing my brush off in this instance to get some of the green off so I can pick up a fresher bit of the red. Pop it in there. Here we go. We're starting to dull down now to a neutral. There we go. Another bit of red. That's just about, I reckon, equal parts there. Or that's certainly a very, very good grey. Another one into there. Get a bit more neat colour, because that alizarin crimson did do a lot of swimming around, that is for sure. So we should be starting to turn back towards the red shades here as we get closer up here. There. So I hope you can see that this is a very valuable exercise. Two shades, test out their transparency by having that permanent marker underneath. Helps your colour chart also be a good reference chart going forward, because you can always see what you've used. Do your increments of colour here, one into the other, and look at all of these shades. And I'm pretty sure if you went into a shop to buy a shade of a purple, that each of these would be represented by somebody as a shade. The same with these colours here, these greys here. So isn't it nice to know that with just those two there, that you can mix all of those shades yourself? And if you use that colour and this colour in a painting, look at all these variations you would have in the one painting. And that's how you make your paintings work as a whole, by limiting your tubes of colour, but mixing them to what it is that you need for the subject you're painting. So I hope you found that helpful. I'll put a link to my recommended colours here for a basic type colour palette. It works well for me for making, for painting flowers, for painting animals. Don't do very many landscapes, but I can see I could easily do that from there as well. Maybe that would be a useful little thing for you to have a look at. So until next time, bye.